Welcome to Safely Divergent. We are your hosts.
Wonderful. I'm Eleanor.
And I'm Kirstie. Last week, we talked about my intense involuntary reactions to overwhelm, which are meltdowns. And this week, we're flipping the script. And I literally just hit record because Eleanor is struggling to...
It's like so perfect. I'm struggling to come up with examples of times when I shut down because when I shut down, my mind goes blank. So I have a hard time recalling them. Okay, so there's our topic today. Yeah. Last week we talked about these, big reactions, overwhelms, the big kind of explosive meltdowns. And some people react that way in stress, and some people react more shutdowns, and some people do a little bit of both.
So, Eleanor, putting that spotlight on you.
Lucky me.
You don't have to come up with a story, but why do you think you can't come up with a specific shutdown story?
My mind goes blank when I am in like a really big stress state, or if I'm in a confrontation. Like, I think specifically when I'm in like a confrontation with someone, I totally withdraw. I totally shut down.
I just think it's so interesting because we have been sitting in this information for a long time, and it's been so helpful for me to know that's what happens to you, because mine is the literal opposite side of what happens. So when you go inward and you shut down, it escalates my nervous system. I really like this book written by Dr. Sue Johnson called Hold Me Tight. It gives this description of demanders and withdrawers, and this describes us to a freaking T.
Yeah,
and I think it's been so helpful.
You are perfectly one of them, and I am perfectly the other.
Like, losing connection with a loved one jeopardizes that sense of security, the safety that we talk about, by triggering that red brain, the amygdala, the part of the brain that senses that fear. And then we don't think, we feel, we act. And at this point, two responses are occurring, and that is a demand or we withdraw. And so as a demander, which is me, it's kind of associated with that fight-flight response. I get this like fear that I'm unwanted. I have this fear of abandonment, or like frightened by my own internal feelings. Like they scare me, so then I lash out and I demand. Whereas your response is more of a withdraw, which what does that tend to feel like?
For withdrawers, we tend to just be frightened or overwhelmed by rejection. Overall, just scared of disappointing our partner or letting them down. And it a lot of times results in this like numbness or feeling frozen, like a freeze response.
And that is what Dr. Sue Johnson talks so much about, is this being like a dance, like a back and forth. And when we've understood that, it has helped us to support each other better, or at least not escalate a situation more, because my response isn't wrong and your response isn't wrong. It's natural. So for me, I know when you're in a shutdown because I can see it in your face. Like, I see that your front portion of like your forehead kind of drop, your eyes go blank.
I was going to say dead eyes.
Yeah, yes. It is.
Empty, vast space.
And with an understanding of neuroception, I feel my radar go off of like, something's wrong. And so in those situations without this information, I have escalated in the past of, oh, I'm not wanted. She thinks I'm not smart. Whatever those like demon dialogues are. I, again, have pushed the situation further where now I know that's not what you need. You are not present. You have dissociated. You need me to reduce, step away, not add to your load, because girlfriend, she is gone.
I'm another. I am in a freeze state.
Yeah. So what we are describing here is this inward, quiet, and often like invisible shutdown. And it's a totally different nervous system response than the meltdown we associated with fight and flight. This is the nervous system response associated with freeze. Can you relate?
That's me. That is me. You don't need to know anything else about me. I'm a freezer.
Yeah. And I will say, like, we've been in situations before where we're observing, other people interact, and we've stepped away afterwards and been like, oh my gosh, that person was in a complete freeze state. Like, you could tell, like, they had no ability to respond. And on the other side, the person was getting upset because they weren't responding. Like, you don't care, you're not understanding. So it's interesting to see it on the other side or see someone else experiencing it, because this is something we have had to, like, and continue to work on, because naturally we're humans. We're gonna hit escalated states at the same time. So it's something to have knowledge about so you can work through it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think that it is more convenient to have partners or friends or family members who are two fighters, fight responders, or two freezers, or a combination?
That's a really intriguing thing to dive into, because I think it brings up different issues. So you've been in spaces where you have the same response, the freeze response or shutdown response, and it lacks communication.
Oh, I mean, that's my family. We're a family of freezers and empaths and avoiding conflict.
And I have the opposite side, where my family is more of the fight-flight responders. So it is more outward, larger. It can't just be shoved away, because it was all out there. All things came out in the air.
Right. A few more raised voices, whereas, like, in my family, can you imagine if someone raised a voice, everyone else would be so startled.
No, I think that's a really intriguing thing to, like, look at. I've worked with a lot of kids who have a shutdown response, and they really fit the box for compliant. So the supports they get are much less. They're able to fall under the radar a lot more.
It's not as obvious. It's not as loud. Yeah, for sure. Like, fly under the radar, get pushed under the rug.
So it's not dramatic. It's not loud. It doesn't always look like anything at all from the outside, but inside it is just as intense, I would presume.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an overwhelm.
When your nervous system hits that point of too much and decides the safest option is to go still, to withdraw, that is a shutdown. And you can picture it like a computer that gets overwhelmed and freezes. Too many tabs open, too much input. The only way to stop further damage is to shut down. And that's essentially what your operating system is doing, right?
That's what my brain operating system does. And that's also how I manage my computer. So I usually have about 40 windows open. You're lucky you can't look into my brain, because there's lots of tabs going on in there too.
I can imagine. So what does a shutdown look like in observing it? Like, if I'm to see you in a shutdown, what does that look like? Or what does that commonly look like for people who do experience shutdowns?
Right. Just like when we talked about meltdown, it's going to be different for everyone, but just overarchingly, suddenly going quiet or just speaking in really short utterances. Your body might get stiff, or you might just go like still, maybe turning away from, like, the person you're engaging with, having a hard time following directions. Zoning out is huge. It's the, like, major way that I am, like, protecting myself, right? Like, having a hard time following conversations.
And I often hear you say, like, after, it's like, I just don't feel smart, because you're not able to process through this information because that's shut off.
Right. I have a hard time coming up with the words I want to say, or, like, literally it just is blank. It feels like a blank canvas on the inside. Like you already mentioned, having, like, a blank face, like, kind of like confused or withdrawn, and then like dead eyes.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell when someone's, like, paying attention to you, and you can tell when someone is not present.
And it is so important to know that's not a choice. You didn't choose to have an out-of-body experience and not be there. Like, you are...
Like, it's like a switch. Like, oh, I'm over this conversation. I'm just going to turn off and sit there. No, it doesn't. It's not as voluntary as that. Might also do some sort of, like, self-soothing, maybe like fidgeting or rubbing skins. Of course, I pick at my pick at my thumbs, maybe twirling hair, some of those just like subtle soothing techniques.
Okay, so that's what we tend to see as an outsider looking in. So these are the signs that you potentially are in a shutdown. What are the symptoms? What are the inside feelings in a shutdown?
Right. And we've already kind of touched on it, but the main one is just like feeling blank, like total brain fog, having a hard time finding words, speech and conversation just feels really difficult or like inaccessible even. Kind of like a numbness or disconnection or disassociation. So like, yeah, my body's there. I can even fake it a little bit and, nod along. Like I'm somewhat present in the conversation, but so my body is there, but my mind is not. I am checked out. And then just two, at least for me, it makes me feel some serious fatigue afterwards. Like my whole system just feels like powered down, like it's out of juice, out of battery. I don't choose to react to confrontations this way, but it's just automatic. And then like afterwards, when I'm, back online, it's kind of like maybe some guilt, like, wow, I was not productive in that conversation, or like I'm thinking of all these things I wish I would have said to be more productive, maybe feel a little bit embarrassed, maybe feel a little bit misunderstood.
That is why repair is so important. We can't repair in these moments. Getting back to
being present and being online. Yeah.
Being online is what's important in this state. But once that has passed and we've been able to like repair and have these conversations, it helps me have insight because that's not how my brain operates or my brain works. So being able to have these conversations really allows me to better support you in these moments.
Mm-hmm. I think another important fact is that shutdowns get misread all the time. So a lot of times people who have a freeze stress response or are frequent to shutdowns get mislabeled as like lazy or couch potatoes or disinterested or just, like checked out, like, oh, they don't care.
Can you relate to that?
Yeah. Right. I mean, totally. Like when I'm in a stress state, whether it's like work or relationships or, whatever, I am horizontal on the couch. And I'm thinking about my to-do list and what I have to do and all the things that I should be doing, but I just am like stuck in that freeze state.
Has anyone ever called you lazy?
I mean, besides myself.
That's what I was going to get at. Is like, I don't know that.
No, I don't
I
don't think I present as a lazy person.
I have just heard that internal dialogue come from you of like, I feel lazy. I am lazy. And
isn't that funny that I know this, we teach on it, we talk on it.
Yeah.
And oh, totally.
I think that is really, again, we can go back to Dr. Sue Johnson just for a second, but she calls it a demon dialogue. Like, what are the things you say to yourself? And that is something you have for probably as long as you can remember, have told yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. So perfect. I can give a little pep talk to myself and any other freezers listening. It's just our nervous system doing its best to protect us.
Right. Your body's response to stress isn't a choice. It's the survival reflex we all have to protect us, like you said. And some folks go loud with a fight-flight response that looks or presents as a meltdown. Others go silent, the freeze-fawn response, which looks like a shutdown.
That's me.
And sometimes there's a mix of the two. So I know for myself, when I have a really intense meltdown, I'm moved into a shutdown. Again, as a protective response, I've literally drained all energy allocation. With that said, you don't move directly to a freeze response.
No, I take a nice little pit stop at either, and it depends, either a fight response or flight, and then I move myself into freeze.
Yes, we all have, you're quick to move into a freeze. I'm not. Mine comes with a large meltdown before I move to shutdown, whereas, like you said, I think that was a great term, a little pit stop, but then you're quickly pushed to freeze. And it's really important to note that we don't want to move to freeze because it really lands in your body harshly. Like if you're pushed there consistently, it's just not good for you. And I've come to appreciate your fights because they are
I'm going to remind you that next time
I
I get a little snarky or maybe have a shift in my tone. I'm going to say, you love this about me.
I do try to say that afterwards of like,
you do.
I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I'm proud of you for having that fight because I don't think you've always had that in you.
Yeah, it's a newer thing for sure.
So in the moment, no, my nervous system says, stop growling at me, lion. But afterwards, I do very much appreciate like that growth in you of I would rather you fight than move to freeze from a nervous system perspective. Because staying stuck in that frozen state doesn't help you recover. It just deepens this disconnection. So Elle, you've found yourself in a shutdown. What do you do? How do you get yourself back online?
For me, it's really similar to a lot of the examples we gave when we were talking about being in a meltdown. We need these signals of safety. We need gentle connection. We need to remind our system that you're not in danger anymore, right? And when we say danger, we're not saying that a lion is necessarily chasing us. Of course, we would go in that response if a lion was chasing us, but being quote unquote in danger is just our nervous system being on guard and alert that something isn't right.
Didn't we have this conversation once? If a lion were to get out in the zoo, what would your response be? What was your choice of what you would do in that situation? I think I said I would hide, and then when the coast was clear, I would run and just try to be faster than someone else. What was your response?
You just can't be the slowest. Oh, I do remember. First of all, no, you don't ever run from a lion because they're just going to think you're playing with them or that you are prey, and they instinctually will chase you, and they are faster than you, even if... But
I feel pretty confident that I can outrun someone in my vicinity.
No, but what I said is I would jump in the bear cage at the zoo and hide in a corner there so that maybe the bear would just fight off the lion and they would forget I was there. Oh. Anyway, how do we get out of this?
Yep.
Last week we talked about empathy and patience. So please don't add to my already high stress load in those moments, right?
And I have to work on this because like your nervous system triggers my nervous system. So a lot of times I'm asking questions. Are you mad at me? What's going on? And I realize that I'm only adding to that. So.
Right. And that's another one I have here too, is like speak briefly. Like while I'm still like in a shutdown, I don't need to rehash the last conversation we had or how we could make plans to make it not happen in the future, or like that's not a time where I can like actively learn or work on anything.
If I do that, I am risking you going back into a shutdown. Like if you're coming out and I'm starting to say like, what happened? Did you remember when you said this or whatever it be?
Bye-bye.
Yeah. See ya. There she goes again. There she goes again.
Old Dead Eyes is back.
For sure. For sure. So no, that is not the time. And we're not going to set a timeline for anyone like, okay, you'll be ready in 30 minutes to rehash it. Like you might have completely blown your energy reserve for the day. This may need to be a conversation for next week. Like, depending where you're at, we want the repair, we want the conversations, but you have to be aware of where your nervous system is and if they can handle those conversations. And
similar to that is, at least for me, in these moments, I need space, right? Like I don't want you, or I'm using you as an example because you usually see this side of me, but I don't want the other person to like abandon me and disappear for the rest of the day. But I do just need a little quiet time, a little alone time. For me, that's huge.
You need space, but I think you still want me in your vicinity.
Right, because you bring me a lot of comfort too, even if I don't need to be looking at your face in that second. No offense.
I understand.
And we talked about this last week too, of like lowering environmental stimulation. So you're really good at clicking onto this. Like when I get overwhelmed by street noise, we live in a city and we have a lot of motorcycles, sirens, people yelling on the streets. And if I'm having a stressful night, you'll just like silently stand up and like close the windows for me. If you can reduce some of those environmental things, it's gonna just be calming in general.
Yeah.
Oh, and then just like that, like magic, I'm back online. My eyes are full of life.
Well, I probably had to offer a sweet treat or margarita somewhere in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If you want to get me online quick, you know these tricks. I'm just so easy to please. If I'm having a bad day, yeah, an ice cream cone or a margarita or both.
Also, I will say we try to set a time each week to have those conversations.
Yeah. So that we can be sure that they do happen and they don't just get pushed under the rug, because if I were in charge of everything, they would just get pushed under the rug.
Yes. And if I were in charge of everything, we would hash it out in the moment. And that doesn't work. So that was a kind of a balance of setting routine, finding a time to kind of chat about those things where you can mentally prepare that they're coming, and I can shut down the loud noises in my head of like, this needs to be discussed, this needs to be discussed, this needs to be discussed.
I mean, look at us. It only took about a decade for us to figure it out.
That's it. That is it. Okay, so I think it is really important to just talk about how we can reframe these meltdowns and shutdowns. Because once we recognize what triggers these heightened states, we can begin accommodating ourselves in ways that reduces their frequency, reduces their largeness. We can also create a plan while in a regulated state to help us move through them with more ease. So when we see these responses as something to hide or feel ashamed of, we don't give ourselves the space to reflect on the buildup of stressors that led to them, which will make it much harder to identify these patterns and prevent them from happening again in the future.
And this is for both shutdowns and meltdowns, regardless of how your body automatically reacts to these overwhelms.
With greater awareness, we can better accommodate our needs and preserve energy.
It can also help us gain confidence in our ability to express our needs more clearly, more efficiently.
And if you can express your needs more efficiently, then you can create a plan and communicate that plan with those that support you. So I surely wasn't as accommodating to your needs at the beginning because they weren't expressed. I didn't know how to support you. Now, I am so much more effective because of your ability to express those needs to me.
Right. And just a friendly reminder, we shouldn't feel ashamed for how our nervous system reacts to stress. In those moments, our body isn't betraying us. It's not letting us down. It's doing its best to protect us in the only way it knows how.
That reframe alone can be so effective to not just escalating these states, but really understanding that it is a protective mechanism. We should be quite appreciative of them happening because we missed all the little subtle signals and our body saying, hey, I'm here. You can't ignore me anymore. I got to do this to protect you.
You got to deal.
All right.
Oh, let's skip on over to scattered.
I was going to try to make a skipping noise, but don't know what that would be.
Imagine us skipping. I would call that more of a trot, but let's just trot on over to scattered. Okay, so Kurs, I am going to share some information about one of my favorite animals, but first I'm going to make you guess what this is. I feel like I have a lot of animals that I say, oh, that's my favorite animal. But this one's definitely in the top 5.
So not top 1.
Top 3, maybe?
So it's not an elephant.
No. Save that for another week.
An axolotl.
No, that's cute. Not axolotl.
I'm gonna guess a sloth?
It is.
Oh, okay.
See, you know my top 5s. Top 3, maybe. I don't know. Elephant's definitely in the top. Cat's up there.
Oh, see, it's hard because I go by cat. Like I was only thinking
Like zoo animals.
Yes, I
wild
wasn't
animals.
thinking
Yeah. Okay. Well,
day-to-day animals.
and I didn't pair this with our topic today on purpose, but it actually kind of works because sloths are just slow-moving little creatures. Slow and silly looking, just like me. Okay, but honestly, they might be one of the weirdest, most fascinating creatures in the animal kingdom. I thought that I have a list of topics I want to talk about for scattered segments. Of course, there's a lot of animals in it. And I thought, oh, sloth will be super easy because I feel like I don't even need to do research. I just know this. And I learned so much. I'm going to just rattle off some facts for you. But they are really interesting creatures. So first of all, they've been around for almost 65 million years.
Wow.
Or at least their ancestors have. So that's like before the dinosaurs went extinct. So they've been around for that long. And their main ancestor, the giant ground sloth, was the size of an elephant. Like we're talking like 15 feet tall.
Oh my gosh. Imagining that is really mind-boggling.
Right. There's a sculpture of one, I think at the San Diego Zoo, like a life size. And they're big. They're big creatures.
I mean, they couldn't hang out in trees then, right?
No.
Ground
sloth. They would probably knock the trees over if they tried to climb up it. But okay, so that's 65 million years ago. Now we're talking about our little tree hanging sloths. So they typically live in rainforests in Central and South America. We know they're tree dwellers, and they just hang up in the canopy. And they live solo lives. They only come down to the jungle floor about once a week to poop.
Huh.
Like, why don't they just poop hanging in the trees? They do like this. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up, but you might be a little disturbed. They do this little, they come down to the bottom of the tree stump. And they do this, little, wiggle dance thing and poop. And they don't really know why they're doing it, but, maybe they're leaving, pheromones to communicate or attract mates to, hey, I'm in this tree. I don't really know, but I think that's why they come down to the tree.
I have never seen a sloth dance, so I'm going to have to look this up.
You can't unsee it.
Did the sloth give you the ick?
It's not my favorite motion of a sloth. And when they poop up to a third of their body weight. Because they only do it once a week. So they're
building it up
and then losing it all. Okay, so obviously we know sloths are slow, painfully slow. And it's because of their super slow metabolism. But they're actually really well built and evolutionized for their lifestyle. They have really strong muscles, their hanging skill, their grip strength and their claws are super powerful. One thing interesting is they can pull, obviously, because they pull themselves up on trees, but they can't do a pushing motion. So that's why they can't really walk on ground. They kind of just drag themselves because they pull themselves.
Whoa.
Because they can't do a forward pushing motion.
They don't have the muscles.
Yeah, I don't really know why. I just know. Yeah, right.
Huh.
They also have 21 pairs of ribs, which is more than any other mammals. So humans, what do we have? I think 12.
Humans typically have 24 ribs, 12 on each side of the body.
Yeah, 12 sets. They fall out of trees a lot. They can fall 100 feet out of a tree and be okay. And I'm guessing it's because of the extra ribs, protect all their organs. I don't know. That's just my theory. And they're also, this will
They
shock
fall
you.
out of trees a lot?
Yeah, if two male sloths are fighting each other over a lady, their tactic is to knock the other one out of the tree. But they can fall 100 feet and be relatively okay.
Wow.
You're right. They're also really good swimmers. They swim 3 times faster than they move on land, which they move on land really slow. So they aren't gonna win the Olympics for swimming, but relatively really quick at swimming. And part of the thing that helps is that their stomach is so gassy because of the way they digest food takes so long. And so everything's just like fermenting in there, I guess. And they're just like really gassy. It helps. It's like a floaty.
I was imagining them being gassy and it propelling them.
Oh, like tooting their way along. I didn't read that, but I mean, it's got to be true.
Yeah.
It's facts.
That's facts.
And get this. They can hold their breath underwater for 40 minutes.
What?
A dolphin can only hold their breath for 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know sloths would even enter water. So to think that they could...
They're really cute to watch swim. They like do a little stroke. A little front
Freestyle?
stroke. Yeah, a little freestyle. Okay, I've got a couple more facts for you. Their fur is really unique. And it's kind of... Have you ever looked at sloth fur up close? You probably haven't.
I have not.
It's basically like its own ecosystem because there is like algae and fungi that grows on their really like coarse fur. And there are certain organisms that are only found on sloths. Like they're not found in rainforests. They're not found in other areas. They're like specific to sloths.
Wow.
There's even like a moth that is 100% dependent on sloths because the only place that their eggs grow is in the algae from like a sloth fur.
Wow, which makes sense because they've been around for so long. So how many other organisms are around because of the sloth surviving?
Exactly. The bad news, sloths are endangered because tropical rainforests, which they are dependent on, are being wiped out. And so as trees disappear, they lose their homes and then they get closer to civilization. They get electrocuted. They get hit by cars. They get attacked by pets, dogs, etc.
They've survived 65 million years.
Yep, we're just doing them dirty. There are a lot of conservation programs in place for sloths, but they're not doing great. So they're super slow, but I feel like they're underestimated and underappreciated because they're actually pretty neat animals. So we've got a little like a BuzzFeed-like quiz. Am I a sloth or am I a human? 5 questions.
Am I doing it?
You can do it. I can do it. Listener can do it. Just kind of keep track of your answers. So question number 1.
Okay.
You wake up. What's your first move? Either A, hit snooze, or B, jump out of bed and check your to-do list. You can just think your answer, okay? Question 2. You're invited to a huge party tonight. Your reaction? Either A, do I have to wear real pants? Or B, let's go. I'm going to RSVP before I even read all the details. Okay. Question number 3. How do you feel about exercise? A, cool with like some yoga, but I'm going to pass on cardio. Or B, I love the burn. Let's sweat it out. Let's get going and run a marathon. 4, how do you deal?
Oh, geez.
How do you deal with confrontation or a threat? This is perfect for our meltdown. I promise I didn't pair it out
purposely.
On purpose. Do you either A, avoid it, freeze, camouflage into the couch, just melt away, or B, tackle it head on? And final question, what's your food vibe? Either A, you graze all day on snacks, or B, 3 solid meals, easy peasy. So, mostly A's, you are a sloth. Mostly B's, you're human. What did you end up with?
I was more sloth than I anticipated, but did end up being a human.
You're a human.
Yeah.
You want to guess? It's going to be a tough one.
This is so tough. You're a sloth.
I'm a sloth. We're split. We're a split household.
We are a split sloth human household.
Protect the Sloths, World Wildlife Organization. It's a good resource with a lot of good information and ways to contribute. So, okay.
Have a slothsome day.
Don't get too slothy this weekend.
I'm feeling philosophical.
Okay, get very philosophical this weekend.
Hang in there. Take it slow. Don't hurry. Be happy.
Don't hurry, be happy now.
Less chores, more snores.
I mean, see, I can relate. This is me. I am sloth.
Let's go get some slothy.
That's a perfect way to end it. I need some slothy. All right. Until next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you loved the episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or follow and subscribe on Spotify. For a deeper dive into this week's topic, follow us on social media at Safely Divergent and check out our blog at safelydivergent.com. Our cover art is by Honor Heindel and our music by Obey Gray. As a reminder, we're just two people with microphones, a lot of thoughts, and some highly questionable hyperfixations. We're not your therapists, doctors, or life coaches, so please do not base major life decisions on our couch chats. Until next time, we hope your nervous system stays safe and social, and your to-do list magically does itself.